up, everybody? RobLive here on a rainy day in the Madera Ranchos with Chances Are Productions. Jim, the man behind the plan on the wheels of steel, the ones and twos.
What's
for
up,
those
Rob?
people from the 80s.
Yep, what's up?
So we're going to get this started here today, and I want to start out by just, before I introduce this man, I want to talk about the role he's played in my life, because I think it's important that you guys know that and why it's so awesome to have him here today. But John came into my life about 15 years ago. My wife, Pearl, and I were getting married, and we wanted to be fit for the wedding pictures, right? At least for that, time. And we had about 6 weeks. Yeah, we waited till the last minute, right? And so we find this flyer at school, Golden Valley High School, where I was teaching at the time. There was a flyer, and it said, "Hey, Fit Body Boot Camp. Check it out." And we're like, all right, is there going to be like sergeants yelling at us? We outside at the park, because I've seen that. And we checked it out. My wife and I went. It was super high energy. It was amazing. And in 6 weeks, given the meal plan, direction from John, and some high energy workouts, low impact, high energy, I lost 25 pounds. I found it back. Check it out. But at the time, it was amazing. So without further ado, the fitness guru, if you will, Mr. John Bocobo.
Hey, what is up? Thanks for having me.
Yes. So, John, I wanted to start where my first impression, right? We had a first meeting where, like, all right, here's your measurements. Here's where you're at.
Yeah.
Here's where we're going to get you to. And I was thinking, well, good luck with that. But sure enough, right? But I remember showing up that first morning. He said, "Hey, we have class at 5 a.m." And I'm like, oh, my, do you have it later? He's like, "No, I need you at 5. You have a wedding, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "All right." So something about, I don't know, John can get you to do things that nobody else can. And he makes it so subtle, right? So there I am at 5 a.m. with Pearl, and she's like, this better, is he going to yell at us? He's like, we went in, it was so chill. It was high energy. It was low impact on the body. And John is the guy that brings it. He was leading the classes at the time. He expanded later, but you were leading at that time. And your voice, your energy, it was very like non-judgmental. And he was just like, "Hey, I'm going to meet you guys where you're at, and I'm going to get you where you need to be. But you have to trust me. You have to trust the process, and you need to listen to what I tell you."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Okay, anything, 6 weeks, we cannot, And my favorite part we just mentioned earlier on our, second or third take was you had voices. Do you remember the voices you used to do?
I do.
Do you still do them?
I do remember the voices.
Yeah, he had that. He had
When
the
I'm not
Scottish.
medicated, they come out.
Yeah. He had the Scottish, then he had like an English dude. And
That's
then,
right.
And then you had like some sound effects too. I can't remember.
they just come.
Mel's like, "Yes, we know." His wife's off camera here with Bob, the star of the show. Actually, we got to put Bob on camera at some point. But, John had this whole thing where his personality and energy distracted you from the pain that you were going through, because it's a shock to the system.
It's all from Major Pain. That's
Major.
Yeah.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want the methodology, just watch Major Pain, man.
That's what it was. Well, you Major Pained us into some fitness. We'd never been so fit in our life, and it was I won't say it was a painless process, but it was a pleasant process.
Yeah.
And we owe a lot of gratitude to you. So thank you for that.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve you and Pearl.
Well, not us, but thousands, right? It was so many people that went in and out of there that we still talk to on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like, John, and everyone has a great John story, right? And I remember that you had I don't know if it was an all natural coffee or something that you would drink, because we all thought you were on Red Bull.
No, man.
And you're like, no, he did it all natural. So what was it that you were drinking that was?
At the time, it was just coffee.
But it was like that was it. It had to be more than that.
No, I don't remember what I put in my coffee at the. You know what? Okay, so it was probably almond milk and agave.
Yes,
and I was drinking Kona coffee at the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there was here's the thing, when you're not a morning person and you have someone around you who's high energy.
Yeah.
There's this fine line between, right?
You're annoying.
He's driving me crazy, or I'm being pleasantly. I always felt like it wasn't like jarring. It was high energy, motivation, and it was fun. And I remember at one point you said, "Hey, we need to come up with something on Fridays." And so John, can I dress in 80s gear and wear leg warmers and tights?
And then your voices came out.
and John's like, go for it. So then Jim, we had I said, can you play this song? Because he had the music going the whole time. Let's get physical. Remember that?
His inner Olivia Newton-John came out.
Oh man, and it made it so fun.
Yeah, it was like what do we call it? Let's get physical Fridays.
Let's get physical Fridays.
That's what we called it.
And so it was just so much fun
with the leg tights and everything.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
A picture. There's a picture somewhere. Leg tights, leg warmers. All the sauce crew's gonna love this, huh? And headband. Remember we had headbands.
All of it.
And so then the other members are like, "Oh, I can out 80s you." By the end of the month, I don't know, Mel, if you remember some of this, but everyone was like 80s, right? And I was like, "What happened? What'd you do, John? What'd you do?" And it made it fun. We look because the grind, right? Monday through Friday, you don't look forward to Friday because your body's sore by then. But with this new theme, we were having fun, so we were like, "Oh, I got to wear my outfit," and you stopped thinking about the physical and you were more into the mental side of it.
Yeah.
So he tricked us into fitness is basically what he did. So I started to get to know John through that process, and you shared a couple things with me. And one of the things that really stuck with me is I said, John, when you first got into fitness, how did this work? And I thought he was going to tell me, well, I've been working out my whole life. And he said, no, I got really sick. Can you kind of fill us in on that?
Oh, okay. So it was 2007, a couple days after Christmas. And I woke up and I had double vision. And within a couple days after that, I couldn't walk. Like, if you put me on my feet, I just would drop to the floor like a sack of potatoes. And
that had to be scary.
It was, it was scary.
You can't walk.
Came out of nowhere. Melissa and I had just started dating. And I was in the ER at the hospital, and they were running all the tests, asking me all the questions. They stuck needles in me, stuck me in the tunnels with all the crazy noises, and they couldn't figure out what's going on. And I was there for several hours, and then finally, like the neurologist.
Yeah.
He comes up and he's looking at my charts and gives me a I'm like, yeah. He says, you have atypical Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I heard atypical.
Yeah.
He said it's a rare virus where your immune system attacks your nervous system.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I still don't understand what you're talking about. And then you said atypical. So what's the deal? So he's just said like, well, it's not presenting in the normal way. So then I'm like, well, is this good? Is this bad? What is
this all?
What does this mean, Captain?
Did Mel have any insight? Because I know you have Mel, you have a medical background, right?
She kind of knew. But like, as far as how long it would last, and what that looked like, you didn't know.
Oh, man, I would have been freaked out. Did you keep your cool, or because I know John, you have a really good poker face. Like you fooled me many times. I was like, John, you look so cool under fire. You're like, oh.
I would say internally, I was a mess.
Yeah, I would have been.
Because like I didn't know. There was a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was the future.
Is there a cure?
Gonna be like, Could I walk again?
Yeah.
Could I see straight again? Right? And the doctors, they just, that doctor in particular, his protocol was to just dose me up on steroids.
Was that the right move, or?
So that's what they said they would do, and so I'm like, okay, so prednisone. A couple of weeks of this and nothing's changing.
Yeah. You're not walking yet?
Yeah. And man. When your leg falls asleep or your hand falls asleep and you get like that sprinkly feeling of, that tingly.
The ants.
I had that on top of not being able to walk and see straight. So the tingly was like from here to here and then from my toes to like my knees. Constant.
So you can't even, can you sleep with that? I mean, was that keeping you up, the tingling?
Not. Yeah, I was able to sleep.
Yeah.
It's just the psychological effect of going from fully functioning and doing what I do in fitness
Yeah.
to having the brakes slammed on and being bedridden, right?
Yeah.
And depending on my family to take care of me.
Yeah.
That really started to weigh on my spirit. So going back to that doctor though, yeah, so it was prednisone, nothing really changing. And then my business partner at the time, his family had been seeing an Oriental medical doctor for years.
Like acupuncture or
Yeah, herbs and acupuncture, and
holistic medicine.
They'd had great results. His entire family. So his mom had an appointment, and she couldn't make it. He calls me up, knows what I'm going through, says, "Hey, my mom couldn't make this appointment. It's a 6-month wait to see this guy. Do you want to take it?"
Heck yeah.
I said, "Okay, I got nothing to lose because I'm sitting there in the bed, Johnny Depp pirate eye patch, and I can't walk, right?" Arr. And so I took that appointment. And this doctor, he just blew me away. Because he was able to tell me, what I had and how I got it, which the other docs couldn't even figure out with all their crazy tests. So then he starts asking me questions. He's like, "Did you get a flu shot?" I said, "Yeah, around Thanksgiving." He's like, "Huh."
The flu shot?
Yeah, so then I'm like, "Well, what's the story, doc?" He says, "You have high levels of mercury in your system. And that's what you have, this Guillain-Barré, mercury comes with it. It's a thing.
Mercury is in the flu shots? Is that what?
It's used as a preservative."
Oh.
And I happened to get one that had it. And so I, at the time, I didn't understand any of this stuff. So
Yeah.
I naively asked him, I said, "Can you get it from eating sushi?" And he just laughs hysterically. I'm like, "Okay, what'd I say?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, you would have to eat an insane amount of sushi to
Yeah.
get the level of mercury that you have in your body from fish." I said, "Okay."
But I had the same question. I was like,
Right?
I eat a lot of fish.
Yeah, because there's that concern right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, he tells me that, and then he makes this crazy claim. And, he treated me the entire time he treated me and worked with me. He used herbs. There were no needles, which I wasn't opposed to. I was like, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And so he gives me this blend of herbs and says, "Take this exactly as it's prescribed, and within 24 hours, you'll be able to walk."
That fast?
And I'm sitting there. I'm like, that's a ballsy statement. Who says that? Right?
Only the guy.
After months of the steroids and still nothing changing.
Yeah. Was
So-
it like a tea or?
It was just, you could mix it in something. He also offered the option of like capsules and just take the capsules. But I just said, he said, you could also just take the spoon and knock it back.
So you were just knocking it back with a spoon?
These things tasted horrid. Like some blends tasted like, that smell of burning tires?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would hit you in the back of your nose. Other times it smelled like cat piss.
Wow.
It was just a range of different things.
So you just had to hold your nose and.
Yeah, and just knock it back. And so I get home and I take these herbs the way he said. I get up the next morning and I remembered what he said. So I prop myself up on the edge of the bed and I'm like, okay, he said I'd be able to walk. So I kind of push off the edge and I'm standing and I'm kind of like this, teetering a little, but I'm standing. I'm not like a heap on the ground.
Yeah.
And then I take a step and I take another step, and I get to the door. I was like, holy crap.
I'm walking.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
called him up. I said, hey, doc, whatever you got, just sign me up for it, because you did what the other guys couldn't do, and you got me walking. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. Who's that doctor?
His name is, it's Dutch. I'm going to butcher
Jesus.
it. I'm going to butcher it. Oh, man, I'm going to butcher it. And it sucks because I can't remember his name right now. But he passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, but he...
We wanted to give him a shout out. Can we get a round of applause for this doctor?
Yeah. Oh, man, I can't remember his name.
He'll be back Easter Sunday. Yeah.
Right?
Jim's bringing him today. He's got the Jesus singers. Wow, that's an amazing story. So now you're back on your feet. And
Yeah.
how did that affect the way you viewed health or fitness afterward?
So during that time, as I was recovering, I also knew that I wanted to come back. I had to come back.
At that time, you and your partner were running like personal training?
We were doing personal training, rehab, working with athletes, and we were doing outdoor boot camps.
Was this based out of San Fernando Valley?
Yeah, we were in the valley.
Okay.
Yep. And I knew I wanted to get back to that, but I like anything more than like even 2 minutes of any kind of activity
Yeah.
just left me breathless.
So you're starting back from zero.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I'm somehow have to strengthen my body so
Yeah.
that I can go back to doing what I did. And it just sort of, I started with this, right? This is the gym that I was born with, so I just started moving this,
So natural body motions.
just body weight exercises.
You taught me the value of a burpee. Like burpees to me were like this corny 1970s like thing, right? And then when he broke it down, he's like, "No, well, check it out. Okay, you can work one part of your body, or you can do full body motions that work everything." And so I was like, "Okay, let me break this down. Up, okay, legs down,
All of
push
it.
up."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh." And so I fell in love with the burpee because of John.
Yeah.
We've broken up since, but at the time, we were like, yeah. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like a real eye opener for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, you decide you're coming back.
Yeah. So, just, a lot of the things that I put myself through, body weight wise, it sort of became like the basis for when we started the boot camp,
Yeah.
because we didn't have a lot of equipment, and still had to get in a quality workout. And the thought occurred to me. I was like, well, you all came with the gym that God gave you. Let's
Yeah.
use it. Right. So if you remember back in those days, there was a lot of body weight stuff.
Yeah. Okay. The ones that I still remember because they were just like foundational
Yeah.
was the burpee, and then you had mountain climbers,
So mountain climbers, planks, squats, push-ups,
and then the side jump. I forgot what we called that.
speed skater.
Speed skater.
Yeah.
All of those were just. I could feel like everything, these muscles I hadn't seen in years, like.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah, they're like, hey, what? But I felt so, when we got to like third or fourth month, I felt this agility that I hadn't felt
Yeah.
in years
Yeah.
from just motion,
Yeah.
and a range of motion that was something that you would naturally do
Mhm.
in a physical act,
Yeah.
as opposed to like nobody ever just like
Yeah. So it's
Right.
it's interesting that you point that out, because at the time, and even still today, like you still have some bros, right? That really only work in this plane,
yeah,
right? What's in front of you?
certain motions.
Yeah. What you got to experience back then, and it's still a piece of how I program.
Hmm.
Is you can't just train this way, because you don't move just this way in life.
That was the biggest thing, and you had said that so many times. You said, "Hey, does anyone ever move like Jim? Do you ever make this motion just naturally?" Right?
No.
but you get up, right? And the one that really taught me balance, right, at the time, and we still try to do it once in a while. That camera's on, right? I'm gonna go for it right now. You ready?
There is.
This is the one that John used to teach us. Can you guys hear me? This was the flamingo. And if I get this correct.
Oh, you talking about Drinking Bird, man?
That one.
You talking about Drinking Bird? Look at you.
Now that's killing my right leg.
Yeah, you look like a hood ornament.
Yeah.
Right, and then
Sobriety test
John
right here.
used to do this. He'd go here, and then he'd go forward. And I go, all right, I'm cool, John. I'm done. I'm done right there. But but that just feels like that's a motion balance.
Yeah.
And so,
That's why everyone fails the sobriety test. They can't do-
but I remember learning so much about balance that I started to walk differently. Like I wasn't as clumsy, because after a while, everything gets clunky and stiff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just felt loose and like I could.
You started to activate those muscles that weren't being used in that way.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why I loved what we did there. And then I also loved John, and it was like a tribal thing.
Vibe.
Yeah, it was a tribal vibe because you were there with, 15, 30 other people of all walks of life and ages. I remember we had like 50, 60-year-old couple there. And there was and then the youngins. And everybody had their own pace and everything, but we were all going through the same thing. And so at the end, he would sit us in a circle and he'd mellow down the music. And it was almost like a yoga type thing.
Cool down.
Yeah, the cool down. And in that moment, some of my best peaceful thoughts were generated. And everybody I could see, we were all in the same vibe. Like we weren't really looking at each other, but we were all having like this spiritual thing like, okay, I'm starting my day. The toughest part of my day has just ended.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing, that the physical exertion.
Getting up.
Oh, yeah.
And showing up.
Yeah.
And then going through that. Yeah.
And so you felt accomplished before your day even began.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
So you started, wait, what happened with the partner? He was not with us, right?
No. So by the time you and I met, we had parted ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
Did he continue on in fitness or he went
Yeah.
to something else?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And
how did you end up in Valencia of all places?
so I purchased into the franchise.
Fit Body.
Yeah. And at the time, I was originally eyeing Agoura Hills because I had clients out there.
Oh, so a franchise has designated
Territory,
territory.
And I guess some other girl beat me to the punch, and she got that territory first.
Yeah. And that was where you lived?
No, we were in the valley, but like more towards like Woodland Hills area. And so she beat me to the punch, and here I am. I'm like, all right, I got this thing. I was gonna go there. Now I'm not. And what am I gonna do? Right? And so then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, where is the next area that has families, that I can serve? Because remember, what we were doing was very sort of family friendly.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And Santa Clarita popped up.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, and I got the thumbs up to go there, and that was scary because I didn't know anybody there.
Well, in that moment, you saved our wedding, so he didn't know it at the time. But in that moment, that decision.
So this is the crazy thing about how all of this unfolds, right?
Yeah.
And if you really take a step back out of all of that, and you look at how God works, right? In the moment when you're in it, you're like, this is stupid. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Right? But if you really pull back, you're like, okay, that's His hand at work. Right? For the way that all of it unfolded, for me to go there and not know anybody, to meet you guys, to build that vibe,
Yeah.
that was all supposed to happen that way.
It was an amazing time.
Yeah.
And we were, I
And that was 2009.
Yes. Here was the double-edged sword of it all.
Yeah.
John was such a unique presence that it was hard to replicate that when it was time to expand. right? And so everybody still wanted John's class.
Yeah.
But John is expanding, and now he has multiple classes. And in order to do all the other stuff, he had to hire people to come in and do it.
We were growing fast.
And so, I mean, there were some great instructors, but it's like, okay, you've got Michael Jackson, and now Tito's running the class, right? You're like, I love Tito, and he's a great musician, right? Shout out to Tito Jackson.
Yeah.
But he's not Michael.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the part, and I don't know if you ever picked up on that.
Oh, I absolutely.
But he was like, "Oh my
Trust
God."
me, I picked up on it because the feedback was very apparent, and
But those are, I mean, to be fair, those are tough shoes to fill. No one's going to be John,
You know what? It was not easy,
Yeah.
right? Because
And they did a great job.
there was a piece of me that wanted to stay there in it, but then I also knew what the vision was.
Yeah, you can't grow if you're
Right.
You have to have a
and
team.
It was hard. It was very hard. Like one of the biggest things was just to let go and have that trust, and trust that the people that God put in front of me
Yeah.
said, here,
And
prepare them.
You picked the right people too.
That they were prepared, and trust in the preparation, and know that they were going to mess up and be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
And have them on the floor.
Yeah. I remember Kelly was one of the ones that I really enjoyed. And she even did haircuts, from home on the side. So she used to cut my kids' hair, and then I'd work out with her in the morning.
Yeah.
But people, you could always feel that vibe, like, where's John?
Yeah, man. It was a lot of
There's a lot of stuff.
of trust.
Mel, did you ever run a class? No. Kicked everybody's butts. Nobody wanted to work out next to Mel because Mel was like
she's a tornado.
Yeah. And so you were like, oh, Mel, where are you at? I'm at 70 burpees. Oh, I'm on 3. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See you at the finish line. and to your credit, Mel, and to a lot of the other higher levels, they never made us feel like we were in a competition.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, you go. If 10 is your personal best,
Yeah.
do your 10.
Yeah.
And then I'll do mine, and we're gonna meet at the end. Exerted.
Yeah.
It just takes me 70 to feel the same for your 10 because I'm so conditioned.
So you had to be very patient.
Yeah. And I remember later in life when I left, moved out here, I would see Mel. She had videos and she was squatting. I said, "What the heck?" I mean, big amounts. Do you remember those? Do you still put those out? Those were motivating. Oh man, we gotta throw those out there. She was deadlifting.
She was deadlifting
And
225.
Yeah, and squatting lineman numbers, and I was like, "What the heck?" I don't know Lydia, but
You never met her.
No, I saw Mel tearing it
Yeah.
up.
She,
That was cool, and that's motivating for us. Like, hey, we can work towards something as well.
Yeah.
So then, it expands.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson hires a bunch of Titos. And then,
And we were still growing fast.
yeah, no, it was a beautiful time, a wonderful time. And I remember he would do cool stuff like we had a plank contest once, plank in different places,
yeah.
and then Let's Get Physical Fridays, and then of course we had to make a financial decision to move from Santa Clarita back home to Fresno.
Yeah.
So I don't know any of the history after we moved away.
Yeah.
So what happened to Fit Body after we left?
So we were still growing crazy fast.
Yeah.
And at that time when you were still there, we were subleasing out of that gymnastics facility,
Yes.
right? But the growth was just nuts. And so I got in contact with a local realtor, asked for her help to help us find a place. It took a year.
Was that the standalone building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were at the end of the standalone building, like
Yeah.
the last.
Did you ever see it?
Yeah,
Okay. So, yeah, I mean,
that was beautiful.
it was a year in the making of looking for places. And, she found us a place, which ended up being way bigger than I was originally looking for. Because I was looking for like 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. This thing was like 4,500 square feet. I look in there, I was like,
Oh my gosh, it's a battle station.
There's the voices. You got that.
I was a little nervous to take that on,
Yeah.
But it again,
Okay, just for the audience, John. This is what I don't know, Mel, if he's like this anymore, but this is John's nervous. This is John's happy. This is John's freaked out. You have no idea what's happening, right? Oh, sorry. So none of us, when you started the building, you were just amped, excited. I remember you had the Fit Body color stripes all around.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. And then the big blue,
Yeah,
we call it the big blue was all
yeah.
the soft build.
Yeah.
You looked confident, and there was nothing about you that said. I think if we wanted to find out anything, we would read Mel's face because Mel's not, she's more on the sleeve.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, how's this going? Let me look at Mel. Okay, there's a little concern.
Yeah. That so we ended up, it was at 4,500 square foot place, and once we got that would open up so many more opportunities because we could do what we wanted.
Yeah,
It was our own house, right? So we could do what we wanted, and
freestanding building, right?
yeah, it was actually a lot like this. The walls were exactly like this too.
You're right.
And so, yeah, we were able to have sessions in the morning and in the afternoon, and we could do workshops and seminars, and just, it just opened up so much more opportunities.
Yeah, and you had a Saturday thing too.
Yeah,
Saturday morning thing.
yeah. And at that point, I couldn't do all the sessions because we were from 5:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Now, it wasn't all the way through, right? There was space in between, but
That would have been ridiculous.
I would have died.
Yeah, and that's not even counting the back office, the paperwork,
Yeah,
the insurance, the bills.
all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, so
we had an office there.
yeah, there was 2 offices there.
Oh, 2?
Yeah, and so when you factor in all of that stuff, you said, I made it look easy,
Yeah.
right? And in some ways, I credit the systems and the processes to that. But internally, there was a lot of storms and fires and tsunamis.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
So then, when did you finally decide to transition into something else? Was it COVID or?
No, it was before that. Like, it just, the evolution of the program,
Yeah.
and just who I am and how I am as a coach, it just started to kind of diverge from the franchise. And I tried to ignore it for a while, and after a while I just couldn't anymore because I felt like I wasn't being true to myself. And after a while I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It's not you, it's me.
I love that.
But yeah, and then we started to diverge into I think you saw it was Ohana Strong.
Yes, Ohana Strong.
Yeah. And so it
Was it still a physical?
it was still
A physical space where
it was
you would
still
work out?
in that same space.
Yeah.
And then it was still the 30-minute the fitness part of it, the fat loss.
I love Ohana though. The name means family.
And
right?
see, that was at the time it was a natural sort of organic
Yeah.
sort of evolution of what was already part of me.
And on top of that, remember that I don't remember if you ever told Mel, but I thought you guys were both Hawaiian. Me and Pearl thought you guys were from Hawaii
A lot of people think that
because
but,
you
like,
have an island vibe. You totally do. I went to Menlo College. Shout out Menlo Oaks, and we had like a 30% Hawaiian population.
Yeah.
And it's just mellow, chill, kind of family vibe.
Yeah.
And you guys gave that off, and I said, bro, I think they're Hawaiian.
It's just I mean, we have family there.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
and I think, maybe you might be picking up on some of that, but like, yeah, it was just sort of a natural evolution of that Ohana vibe.
And more in alignment with what you.
Yeah, that,
wanted.
and then, when you first started with us, it was just like the boot camp style workouts.
Yeah.
But the other piece of it that, again, was near and dear to my heart was lifting heavy barbells.
Okay.
Right? So
yeah. I remember you brought in like squat racks at the
yeah.
end.
So
and-
then we implemented some barbell work, and we had a separate session called open bar.
No, sweet.
We did that, and then Melissa got she jumped off the deep end and dove into nutrition coaching.
Yes.
And so, we added nutrition coaching as on top of what we also did.
And it was, Mel, were you still doing? Were you still in the medical field full time as well? Remember how you doing nurse? Were you a nurse? You were a nurse, right? Or so did you keep that going the whole time? Oh my God! So okay, so you can't hear off camera because of can we bring you on? Yeah, bring Bob. Yeah, because Mel's. I mean, sorry to throw you out there, Mel, but you can't talk about John without Mel.
No, you can't.
It's kind of like the dynamic duo. So I just feel like if we don't have Mel out here, we have half the story missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, come on over. Mel, you can share and of course
She need a mic?
the child. Do we have an extra mic? Oh, sorry, Jim. Jim's like, dude, you got to tell me when you're gonna pull this. He'll yell at me later. But they have their child here. This is Bob.
Where's the camera? There?
Now, okay, audience members, do this in your brain real quick. I want you to mentally guess the age of Bob right now. Okay, is a 1 year old? Is a puppy? How old do you think Bob is? Right? Mentally commit to a number. And now, and when the microphone's working here, Mel's going to tell you how old Bob is. Right? Is she on? Look at Jim's, Johnny.
Okay. So going back to your question of what I was doing. So
Yeah.
at that time, I was working in the hospital,
Yeah.
working 312s, and then I went down to 212s,
Okay, so everybody out there, 12 hours.
12-hour shifts.
12-hour shifts.
12-hour shifts. So I went down to 2 12-hour shifts, and I said, okay, I got extra time.
Yeah.
And so I was always interested in nutrition. So going back to John's story
Yeah.
about him getting sick. And at that time, I was also going to school for acupuncture and oriental medicine.
Oh.
So when he was on herbs, I was like, yeah, that herb is for this herb is for that. So I can kind of tell him, yeah, that's good. So I could understand what was going on, what was being prescribed to him
Man.
from the herbs.
Lifesaver.
And so, yes. So this is...
Did he come to you like, Mel, should I be? Was he hesitant?
Well, no, I was curious. So I was
She
the
was
one.
dorking
I
out.
was like, oh, cool. Because everything that I learned, I started to kind of apply.
Yeah.
And so there's a saying with Hippocrates, right? Let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. I hope that's the correct,
No, that's great.
quote.
Let food be thy medicine.
And thy medicine be thy, let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine, or
That makes
could be.
total sense.
Or
now
it could
that
be
I'm-
vice versa.
Yeah,
So I've
no.
always believed that.
Yeah.
And going through, acupuncture and oriental medicine, it's just so crazy about how when you learn things, I had to let go of Western because that's Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
Eastern medicine is very, very literal. Like, I'll give you something that doesn't make sense, but makes sense. So I'll take, for instance, right now, it's raining, right?
Yeah.
So we always think 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
Right. But, okay, think about this. You have 1 raindrop plus 1 raindrop. Does it become 2 or does it become 1?
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Like Bruce Lee, be like water, right?
So here's the thing, too. So another thing about that is because it's very individualized for every individual, unlike Western medicine. Like, okay, you got a headache?
Yeah.
Okay, here, take this, right? So when they ask in Eastern, they ask, what's the quality? What's aggravating it? They go through like a battery list of questions so that way your medication is prescribed, right?
Yeah.
Because it could be caused by any certain things. And going back to the raindrop. Now, when you have a glass of water, right,
Yeah.
and you see there's condensation on the glass, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like there's more water, right? So to create, this is kind of very like simplified, but to create more water in your body, sometimes you have to give something cold because you see the cold creates that condensation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Whoa.
Okay, and let's talk about yin yang theory, right?
Yeah.
It's balance, right? The whole theory is creating balance in the body. Now, we think about water. Now, they tell us it could be true, like you drink cold water, it increases your metabolism, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about your stomach in Oriental medicine, I haven't explained theory in a long time, so I'm a bit rusty. So let me try to explain this that makes more sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going back and trying to think. So out there, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but it's balance, right?
Yeah.
So if you have cold water, it's not quite balanced in the fact that it's not warm. It's not hot, right? So if you put cold
It's an
and
extreme.
hot together, it becomes warm.
Yeah.
So what's warm? Room temperature. And in your gut, that's where they call you ripen and rotten food. So if you kill it with cold water, your digestion is poor.
Oh.
So you drink room temp water. That's a balance of hot and cold.
Pearl was right. I'm
You
always
know?
throwing the waters in the fridge, and she's like, "Why do you drink it so cold?" I'm like, "Oh, it just tastes better that way." And she's
Yes.
like, "No." So she always wants the room temperature water. Like
Right.
her body craves that.
Right. So one more thing that I know about my body, learning from Oriental medicine. Back in the days, they used to say, "Oh, seafood is easier to digest," right? Yeah, makes sense, right? And so I went by that theory, and I ate a lot of seafood. So when we first met, I had really cold hands and cold feet. And then as I was
I feel
going,
like that was a female thing.
that's a female
Especially-
thing, right?
Wait for it. Wait
Yeah.
for it.
So when I was going through Oriental medicine, they say cold foods aggravate your cold constitution. So what do you eat? You eat warming types of food. Now, warming types of food is beef, game meat, meat products, basically. If you were going to eat...
Sorry, vegans.
Yeah.
if
Are
you-
vegans always cold?
Could be because they don't have the iron, right?
Yeah.
So
Can they replace it? Like, let's say I'm a vegan and I want to replace some of the things that I miss from meat. Is there a substitute?
there's a lot of things that you would have to take
Tofu?
supplementation
okay.
wise.
Yeah.
Because if you look at beef, it has like B vitamins, iron, a whole, I think, creatine. Remember creatine for muscle
Yep.
building?
I was just talking to John.
Yes.
About that.
So let me see. What was my thought process? Okay. So warming types of meat. So
Yeah.
so if you were going to eat seafood, so
Yeah.
if we go with that theory of warming types of seafood is wild caught fish. If you look at, let's just say salmon, farmed salmon and wild caught salmon, what's more red?
I think about probably the wild caught.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you were going to eat seafood, you're eating the orange, red type of fish.
So look at the color.
Look at the color.
Okay, I have one for you real quick
If I
because my
remember.
sister does this and I'm like, I don't know about that. Right? And I've heard some things. Tilapia.
Tilapia is farm raised.
Is
So-
that like a genetically
Well,
created fish?
it's not genetically. It is farmed, so it's in a lake, right?
Okay.
Say like that, or
Well,
like a lake.
I'm gonna sound like my mom right now because you know how your parents, when they're older, they see something on the internet, and go, "That is real." I saw one where they said this is how they feed tilapia, and they let them loose in a sewer farm.
It's a farm, correct?
Jim, are you hearing this? So their feces is their
Yeah.
Well,
Cynthia. Don't eat the tilapia.
think about
you are what you eat, right?
think about like it's in very stagnant water.
Yeah.
So if you're saying they're in like this pool of whatever
Waste.
waste,
It's not
so they have to give it like antibiotics, right?
Yeah.
And you're eating that.
So
Yeah.
if you think of a wild caught fish, it
Yeah.
exerts a lot of energy, right? It's not just stagnant. It doesn't need antibiotics. Again, when you look at nutrition, it's so very nuanced. And I think it's just, you got to do your own research because there's different camps out there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I love nutrition. So I like to read like different things. What's
Labels.
new, labels. Exactly. So again, let's go back to nutrition.
We got to write a book. What does Mel eat? Because we know it's well researched, right? He messed me up on the peanuts. John, over here. Jim, have you ever heard this one about peanuts that John told me? He's like, dude, when they're in the ground, they're absorbing all the pesticides. Do you remember telling me that?
I think you could say that about a lot of plants.
And I was
though.
like, what?
Yes.
And so is there safe nuts, almonds, or what's
You-
safe?
Okay.
'Cause
So
you
if
messed
you're
me up
gonna
on the peanuts.
if you're
I thought
gonna
about it.
eat peanuts, it
Organic.
has to be organic, of course. And the one that I keep on reading about are like the Valencia peanuts. Now, if you look at the peanut butter from Trader Joe's,
Yeah.
it does say Valencia. I don't know why. I
As
haven't
in
researched
Spain,
that.
Valencia,
Yes,
or
like-
Awesome Town?
Oh, yeah, awesome.
No.
Remember they used to call it Awesome Town?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I
Spain.
know. So, I mean,
So here's a question everyone's asking right now on camera. I can feel them. Okay, Mel knows a lot about food. Where the hell is she shopping?
I shop at Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's, guys.
I shop at Ralph's. I shop at
Ralph's.
Sprouts,
Costco.
but
The
Costco.
organic section.
But yes, and you got to read the label. So I'm going to give you like another lesson in nutrition. Now, you
Okay.
look at the 100 snack pack label in the ingredients. Now, if you're able to put it, on the screen, I want you to put like what it says.
Yeah.
Now, you look at a regular cookie that's butter, sugar, flour, vanilla extract, eggs. I would rather eat that instead of the 100 calorie because those ingredients that you can't read in the list, your body doesn't know what that is. It's like I say, if you can't read it, don't eat it.
There it is. Another bumper
Well, that is
sticker.
a good one,
Yeah,
yeah.
this one came
If
from
you
Mel.
can't read it, don't eat it.
If you can't read it, don't eat it.
So I
So what
like,
does that say about my pills?
yeah, if you can't read it, don't take it. I don't know. But
That's a whole other book
I
of
know.
worms,
Yeah.
Jim.
I love that one.
yeah, I like
That's
to
a bumper
go
sticker.
with like a good, better, best. Like good is 10 ingredients or less.
Yeah.
Better, 5 or less. Best is like 1 ingredient. So example, that's chicken, that's broccoli, that's butter. That's what I prefer to eat. Like, don't get me wrong, I still have my days where I eat what I want, but I hate to use the word in moderation, but it's balanced.
Yeah.
It's very balanced. And another thing I think people should do is have an intake. If you use MyFitnessPal chronometer and really take a look at what you're eating, because a lot of people say, I eat healthy. And I said, okay, tell me what you eat. Oh, I eat a salad, lots of salad. And I said, okay, where's your protein? But protein's bad for you. I said who? Why is it,
The cavemen made it somehow, huh?
And I like
It wasn't on
that.
salad.
That's called ancestral nutrition. So if you
Okay.
look at ancestral nutrition, you think about the cavemen and how they eat.
Yeah. Carnivores?
Carnivores. I mean, I know there's a carnivore diet, but I think it's a little bit different. But
But there's random berries, right, in the mix of
if
the
you- yeah,
caveman.
They
I
got
mean-
what they could find.
yeah,
Yeah. Which was whole food ingredients.
correct. So
Wow.
there's so
I-
many
I-
things.
I heard this a long time ago, and I don't know why they made it sound credible, but I heard if you wanted to cool off, like if you were really hot and you wanted to cool off, they said to drink coffee or something hot to cool you off.
I think I remember hearing that.
And it was like the opposite. You would think you would want cold water to cool your but they said it would balance when you were saying balance, I was like, oh, that actually makes sense, because if you're hot inside and you warm up your internal organs enough to where it balances your outside, then whatever the room temperature it would bring your temperature down. I don't know how.
I haven't heard of that one.
The other thing too that I did hear a doctor say that I've been trying this is to go to bed every night and drink a cup of hot water.
Right before bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that could work
And
too.
the reason they say that is because your colons, your inside intestinal organs collectively keep sugars attached to the organs inside. But if you drink hot water, it loosens them and kind of is like a dishwasher, and it kind of relieves and it lets your sugars flow through your body as you sleep to release that instead
That's
of
a new
having.
one.
It was really interesting. So I've been doing it for a week. So I don't know if
How do you feel?
I hate hot water. I don't know. I mean,
It's in
off
alignment
the
with
record. I mean, I know this
Yeah.
is, but my bowels are smoother. I mean, everything else it's like my intestinal
So,
discharge is smoother.
As I was saying that I'm a nurse and I do right now. I'm a home health nurse. I don't work in the hospital, and I always talk to my patients and they hate water. Always hate water, and okay, I know it's a little bit TMI, but they're always saying they're constipated. So here's what I say to them about water. If you put toilet paper in the toilet, how is it going to flush without water? So think about that like your stool. If you don't have water flushing it out, it's stuck.
Oh, yeah.
So another way I like to think about things of, okay, how much water should someone drink? Now, this is not set in stone, but this is what I like to go by.
Rule of thumb.
Take your body weight, divide it in half, and that's how many ounces you need to drink a day.
Oh, okay.
For a lot of people, it seems a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but once you get used to it, a lot of things start, functioning better in your body.
No,
And
that's-
you have the nutrition, you got the water. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I know you don't have like 24 hours to speak about nutrition.
Yeah, no, but this is very helpful.
But
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, so many things. I mean, I love nutrition,
Yeah. Well, let's recap because you gave some really good stuff here. So let's just simplify it for the audience. Number one, if you can't read it, don't eat it. Number two, if at all possible, drink half your body weight in water.
In ounces.
Ounces.
Oh, ounces. What'd I say? In water?
In water. Yes, in ounces.
Ounces of water.
Ounces of water,
So,
correct.
and here's the other thing that a lot of people want to know, because we don't all have access to a nurse, right, who's in the industry right now. But you got, with you, John had this. We want to ask about when COVID hit. Were
Ooh.
you on the front lines? Were you in the hospital?
Yes.
And was it matching what the media was telling us?
Well, okay. Let me focus on what I thought in the beginning. Yes, okay. I worked at Kaiser. I shouldn't say where. I worked there, and everyone was scared. Of course,
Yeah.
everyone was scared, right? And yes, our hospital was very, very busy. We weren't a dead hospital. I don't want to say it like that. I mean, we weren't a slow hospital. Let me rephrase that. We weren't a slow. We were very, very busy up to our yin yang. How do I go about this without like?
just drop it, Mel. We're on RobLive. We just drop it.
I didn't agree with what was going on. All right. So first of all, where in medicine do you say don't come back to the hospital until you're very sick?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
Right? It's like take X, Y, and Z to get you better, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing was you come back when you're sicker. By the time you're sicker, your oxygen level, this is what they said. If your oxygen level is low, you're very sick, you get placed on the ventilator, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Was that the one that they were saying is kind of like a death sentence to
Yes.
get that far?
right, okay.
You don't want to be on the ventilator.
You don't want to be on a ventilator. But I'm going to tell you something. When COVID first hit, we were giving hydroxychloroquine. Let me repeat that again. We were giving hydroxychloroquine. I remember that.
Is that the one that?
That was off-label.
They don't want you to know about.
They were using that. That's
Yeah.
an anti-malarial drug, right?
Yeah.
So they've been using it in Africa as their Sunday pill to prevent malaria, right?
Yeah.
Now, we were also giving them azithromycin, and I think we're giving them either vitamin C or vitamin D.
Who was making those decisions? Like, what was?
See,
at the
I don't
time?
know. Who knows? Maybe
That was just a directive you guys got from above.
that was a directive.
prescribe?
That was,
Okay.
but we were giving.
Yeah.
They were getting better.
Oh,
They were going
what?
home. They were going home. Okay. So all of a sudden, it changed. The narrative changed. The narrative changed to ivermectin is giving patients arrhythmia. Now they were saying it was coming from, I think it was called, was it the Lance?
And for the non-medical people, arrhythmia is.
Irregular heart rhythm.
That's what I thought. Is that what you thought it was? All right.
Irregular heart rhythm. I think
the Lance
the Lancet, right? I think it was the Lancet. I think Lance or Lancet. I don't remember what it was. And they said there was a study. So, of course, everyone wanted to see that study. It
Yeah.
got retracted because it wasn't real.
What?
It wasn't, what's the
It
word?
was disinformation.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't probably what they say a peer-reviewed study, right? That
Yeah.
everyone can look into it. And, there was a lot of things not making sense. All right, so now going to the hospital. And so I started digging and digging and digging because for some odd reason I had this weird inkling of like, something's not right. And God works in mysterious ways because the day that I was going to get my vaccine, they said they were so busy that day that they couldn't give it. So I did not take it. Okay. Now, I've kept healthy with my nutrition, with my workouts,
So you weren't
So-
like immune compromised and you were fine.
I was fine. So I kept healthy and I never got it.
Oh, what? I was thinking as a nurse, for sure, everybody, at least once. That's
I never got it.
crazy.
And the homeless people.
So
In the
again,
neighborhood.
like I started putting so another thing that I started looking at was like whenever we tested for someone with COVID, it was flu season too, right?
Yeah.
No one ever tested positive for the flu. Why?
Oh,
That,
so
word,
they were,
Did-
that word didn't exist anymore. It was
That word
COVID.
did not exist. It was only COVID. You know why?
why?
The reimbursements for the diagnosis.
Oh.
There was I think about a $15,000 reimbursement.
So financially, it wouldn't make sense to label it as the flu.
So if you came in with something else, but you tested positive for COVID, you're COVID. You're
Oh, I
not
see.
like
Yeah.
you're not like a right ankle fracture.
Yeah.
You don't remember hearing all those stories? So I worked in the media for 27 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't remember all those stories that were coming out where John Doe died at the hospital and he technically died of other causes.
Like heart attack,
but
stroke.
he
Let's
went
call it-
in there and he somehow was exposed to the COVID world in there
Yeah.
and he died of COVID.
Yeah.
Even though
Right.
he actually died of natural causes or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
So the other
Well-
thing too is
Yeah.
when you're placed on the ventilator,
Yeah.
that's a 30,000, let's say, another 30K reimbursement to the
Oh,
hospital.
man. I feel like there's
It
a
was-
documentary
it was
brewing
money.
here.
All,
It was money.
All money, man.
It was all money.
Crazy.
Oh, I want to know this. Why did we change the name?
I know.
Because remember, it was like, when I first heard about it was like coronavirus. And then
There-
coronavirus got dropped.
Because there are coronaviruses.
but
there-
why did they change it? Oh, because COVID's more specific? Is that what it
See,
was?
I'm not sure why, but
You remember that? It was
Yeah,
like coronavirus.
because there are coronaviruses.
Yeah.
That's-
They've been around for
You know
forever.
what? Yeah, and you know what? You could. I was actually watching the news the other day, or during that first year, or whatever, first few months, and I was actually looking at a Clorox bottle on the back of a cleaning supply product, Lysol or whatever it is. It says Corona on it. It's a Corona.
Because I think on the battery test for respiratory viruses, it'll say
Yeah.
corona, like when you do those respiratory viruses.
Yeah.
So the other thing too, so John at that time was taking me to work. And
Yeah.
so I started noticing oh, there's that homeless person still on the street. And I called her Igloo Lady because she had this mound of blankets.
Oh, that's like
It looked
Like
an
a
igloo.
mound of blankets. And
Yeah.
it was like an igloo. I said, there's igloo lady right there. And then another corner, I'm like, oh, there's box dude. He lived in his box house. And then on the other
the
corner,
regulars.
None of them keeled over.
yeah. And then there was like a group of like, I don't know if they were homeless, probably homeless. Remember the guys that had like bikes?
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if like they stole bikes. I don't know. But they had like these bikes around, like a whole bunch of bikes.
Were they selling them or?
I guess. I don't know. They were just there, like random
Yeah.
bikes, like 20 of them, 15 to 20 of them.
Oh, wow.
And they'd hang out. No problem.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
So let me ask you: never did get the virus?
I never did.
You never got the
Vaccine?
shot, the
Nope.
vaccine,
Nope.
and your job.
So, okay, here.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I wanted to ask John too, Robert. You didn't really go into this.
Yeah.
When your doctor said because of the stuff that was allegedly in the flu,
Mercury.
Flu shot. Mercury.
have you ever gotten it again?
No. Well, so he said you can never have another flu shot again because if you do, it would be lethal to you. I said, okay, that's
Whoa.
fine with me because I don't
Because
want to
that
go through
right
this again.
there, just the one time I got really sick is
Yeah.
right after I got a flu shot, and I went in just because the school was not making us, but hey, it's free. You can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine at school was like, let's go do it. I'm like, all right, I was sicker than a dog, and I
Right.
know the process. I know what's
Yeah.
behind it,
Uh-huh.
but why? I was never sick in the first place. So
Yeah.
I'm like, so my thought was now that you said that, not
Yeah.
to spread rumor or let people hear this and knowing that it made them sick. I know that's probably not the reason, but your body probably handled it differently than someone else
Yeah.
probably would have who takes it every year.
Yeah.
So
So, you're asking about what happened, the repercussions of me not taking it. So,
Yeah.
again, God works in mysterious ways. And I said to myself, look, God, I don't want to take this leap of faith. I'm resigning from my job. After
Whoa.
21 years, I resigned from my job.
And
And-
was it as a reaction to what you were seeing in the
Well,
medical industry
I
or?
did not want to be complicit to knowing that I am making my patients sick. So here's another fact too. Remdesivir. That was causing a lot of kidney failure. And if I'm giving remdesivir, I'm complicit to their death
And when was that being prescribed?
after we couldn't give them hydroxychloroquine.
Oh, so this was a COVID.
That was the only medication we can give them at the
And
time.
that was causing kidney failure.
That was
Oh,
paired with
man.
Antibiotics. I think when you're giving antibiotics plus remdesivir, I believe it was causing more kidney failure. And so, yeah, I did not want to be complicit knowing that I'm causing problems in my patients. And why am I going to be coerced and forced to take something for my job? Because back in the flu virus time,
Yeah.
we just had to sign a paper declining the flu virus and wear a mask. But I always took it because I didn't want to be inconvenienced by the mask. But after this, I said, oh, hell no, I am not taking any vaccine anymore because I was hearing along, I think, other media outlets that people were getting the so-called flu vaccine, but were getting the COVID vaccine because they were saying, oh, come back for your second shot. And they looked at the pharmacist and said, wait a minute, I asked for the flu shot. Oh, we made a mistake.
it's all about money.
We made a mistake. So that's why I
infuriating.
don't trust anything anymore. Anything anymore. Look, if I can make myself, if God is giving me my health through education on nutrition, supplementation, eating healthy, why not? We have our own immune system.
Yeah.
And so I believe in that. And so now it's like, I'm the type, I'm Filipina, and I'm always like, respectful of authority. Yes, okay. My teacher said that. My doctor said that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what they say. Now, because of this whole thing, I'm always suspicious all the time. When you have to,
But I honestly give you credit because in the beginning of this whole conversation, you said you researched, you knew, you're smart. I think a lot of people could look up the information themselves and figure out, is that something for me, other than listening to someone tell them
Yes.
they have to do it?
So it's interesting enough because there is a church, and this pastor, he had this sermon that again, God works in mysterious ways, and he said there's two things missing, and at this time right now, he said conviction and critical thinking. And so when you do your critical thinking, you have the conviction to say, this is what I believe in, and I'm not doing it. Because everyone I knew was like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it.
I was like, oh, we got an answer. We got a cure.
And then they looked at me like crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy in the hospital. They're like, you're not going to take it? I'm like, no.
I remember thinking the same thing.
I'm not going to take it. And I remember I was talking to one of the respiratory therapists, and we were kind of like on the same like playing field, like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. And then when it came to losing your job, I think she caved and she took it. And when she knew I didn't take it, she was so angry at me. She said, how dare you? How dare you not take it? Can't you see what's going on? I'm like, can't you see what's going on? It's still my decision and you need to respect me. And I said that to everyone. I didn't tell you not to take it, so you can't tell me to take it. And if I'm not going to tell anyone not to take it.
You were the Aaron Rodgers of hospitals.
I mean, I tell them, I said, you have your own opinions. I have my own opinions. And I'm not going to say what I believe and what you believe are not true, you know? So I still respect people to this day. If they want it, okay, fine, you know?
Yeah.
But to each their own. And I would say to each their own. I have my own thoughts of things. And, you know, because of the critical thinking, again, you have to think critically, because if the homeless people are dying on Skid Row, there's no like dump trucks like scraping them off the ground and putting them into like, you know, I don't know, like mass burial fields or anything like that, then that goes to show something, right?
Well, their immune system was a lot
So
more.
they have a healthy,
Robust.
You eat out the trash can. And,
right? I
Yeah.
mean, look, they're out in the sunshine, vitamin D. They're breathing fresh air. They're quote unquote kind of socializing, right? Again, what we didn't have, the socialization, right? And they built up. If I believe there was something out there, they built an immunity, right? Natural immunity.
And I think that, and I know this is turning into a different thing, but not to go political, but I think that was the start of dividing what our beliefs, and it's like we were told what to do compared to educating ourselves to do what we want to do. And then it just turned into a big old mess, and it's kind of where the country's at now. But you don't hear about it anymore. That's my thing, is you don't hear that we have to continue. Remember how many, my wife's aunt was on her 7th shot.
People were just so happy to put that. I'm mixing and matching my vaccines as well too.
That doesn't even make any sense. Well, like, in what realm is something like that cool or advisable?
Yes, I
But
mean,
with
like
this,
I mean, like with doctors, their hands were tied, so they couldn't quite say anything because they wanted to keep their job as well too. But there are good doctors out there, you know.
And some of them tried to come out and speak out later.
They're speaking out, but
speaking out
they're
now.
speaking out. And I mean, there's going to be lots of lawsuits, you know. So
Wow.
there's going to be lawsuits.
The thing that and as an educator, and because my first year at the new school I'm teaching at, I only had a half year in March, and then we got pulled out, and then all of a sudden
We left on
Yeah.
March 13th,
Yep.
Friday, March 13th,
Friday the
2020.
13th. And
I remember when we left.
what's interesting about that was it's kind of surreal, because it like it's gone. It went by so. I wouldn't say fast, because it was a
No,
long
it felt
time.
like forever, yeah.
But it's gone. It's like all of a sudden it was just like another chapter of life that it's like, okay, move on now, go out and spend money and do whatever.
I mean,
and-
now they're saying like, what are they calling disease X? What are they calling?
There's a new one?
Oh yeah, they're
oh
calling.
yeah, they're
that's what they were trying to
Oh,
push.
I
man.
mean, like Jim was saying, it's kind of more on the political side, and
I haven't heard of this one, Disease X.
Well, and that's the sad thing about all this is I think people have realized self-educate themselves, take care of yourselves, eat right, do the things that we know.
Yeah, there was some
you know, and
positive byproduct. Like
I
the
think there
health
was a lot
industry.
of like, just do you, don't be told what to do and what. I used to always laugh, like, I don't put cocaine up my nose because it's a substance I know what it'll do, and it'll probably eventually destroy my insides and everything. So I've never done drugs. So my thing is, why would I inject something in my body that I don't really know and trust until my job was on the line?
I
And that's the
mean-
second thing. So,
I
but-
mean, yeah, like I said, I was 21 years. 21
Wow,
years.
and you walked away.
I walked away. Again, it's like leap of faith. And now, like, I love what I do now. Like, as a home health nurse, like, I go see my patients. I get to talk to them. I get to educate them. Like,
Yeah.
me, like, being in the hospital, it's like, you probably see me for, like, a good, like, 10 to 15 minutes. Like, I would call you, we have this terminology, like, the very stable patients. We call them walkie-talkies.
Walkie-talkie.
Because you can walk and you can talk. So I work
Yeah.
in a step down unit. I'm also cross-trained to ICU, and we deal with very sick people. So we do our hourly rounding. We're kind of like, okay, Rob's good.
He's the
but
walkie-talkie.
He's a walkie-talkie. He's good.
I like
so
that
like,
term.
all right, cool. Like, yeah, he's breathing.
Yeah.
So you go into your other patients room. You're like, okay, that's gonna be my
Walk-
project for the day.
He's a
And-
walking zombie.
yeah. So, so that's going to be, my sickest patient. So I'm going to spend majority of my time there.
Yeah.
I tell you, like, you're asking me how it was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So in ICU, our ratio is 1 nurse to 2 patients.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. We went up to 1 to 6. 1 to 6. And I know there was a waiver out there. And I think we were only supposed to go up to 1 to 3. We were doubling up patients in a room.
Oh my.
Like I said, like, it was like a war zone. And
Yeah.
when I resigned, I think I went through post-traumatic stress
From everything you
from
saw.
everything.
and-
I was on the couch for about a week. And I was like going through everything and like trying to even like absorb what went on, because as a nurse, you're like, okay, that's my job. You eat, sleep, go back the next day, right?
Yeah.
So when I was able to just kind of like sit down and kind of get my thoughts together, I said, what happened? What was this? What really happened?
Yeah.
And
I felt that too. Coming back to school.
like, I was like,
Yeah.
what happened? And I said, it felt so surreal
Yeah.
when I was going through it. And, at times I was in tears because I was like, how as a healthcare professional are we allowed to go through that, I don't know, pain, the misery? Aren't nurses supposed to be healthy for their patients? But we aren't. Nurses are very unhealthy. And I'm kind of like the oddball with my nurses because they say, oh, that's just smell. But why wouldn't you want to care about your health? If you're telling your patients, don't eat too much salt, watch your carbohydrate intake,
Yeah.
watch your sugars, but yet you're not, it's like
The doctors on the smoke breaks.
the respiratory therapist on the smoke breaks. Right? And I always say, like, look at your doctor. If your doctor is not the picture of health, would you even take his advice?
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's go with personal trainers.
Out of shape.
You're like, I don't know. I mean, maybe
You
he's,
talk a good game.
maybe he's great at what he does, but
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to look the
Yeah.
part? I'm not saying
Yeah.
you got to be super ripped or like, 6 packs. And, I always like to call the trapezius muscles here
Yeah.
when they're overdeveloped. I'm like, they look like a hanger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
I said,
do.
why do they? I was like, what's the purpose? But I'm just saying, like,
Well, let me tell you what I did with you guys. And I never told you this, but they had the little office, right, Jim? And there was one point where John was like, hey, I got a little side gig for you, right? Little discount. Clean up the building and this and that. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And so I was hopping around the building, right? I was like a part-time employee. And I would always look at their food. 'Cause they always they bring meals and, Tupperware and stuff. And I'm shoot it. It was always like legit, like chicken breast. And I was like, these guys are really eating the stuff they're talking about. It was like all like simple ingredients. I remember seeing a lot of chicken breast, asparagus.
Yeah.
That was old.
That was,
Yeah.
that was,
That was old.
But I remember looking at your food, and I never told you guys. I was like,
That's
"Guys,
okay.
What are they eating?" Right? And I would tell Pearl, they eat all that stuff they're telling us. She's like, "Well, that's good. We wouldn't want to find Twinkies in their office." You know what I mean?
It evolved from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it evolved. And at that time, I believe the way I see it was very extreme, quote unquote, clean foods.
Yeah.
You can make anything work, Until this day, I still, do macros, count my calories and protein, carbs, and fat because I want to know too.
Yeah.
If your goal is to build muscle, again, this is very kind of like simplified. If you want muscle, you got to eat muscle, which is protein, right?
Yeah.
So it's very simplified, but kind of like that. Like if you're not going to eat enough protein,
Yeah.
how are you going to have those amino acids? Here's another topic. Like the research now is leucine. Leucine is the key that ignites the muscle protein synthesis.
Where do we find leucine?
Leucine is in animal-based products.
Oh.
Yes.
So poor vegetarians. This is sounding bad for them.
Yes.
I'm sorry, vegetarians. We love you.
I have nothing against, vegetarians. Like, again, to each their own. If you feel good on
Yeah.
the way you eat, but you have to say, like, what's my goal?
Okay.
You can get it, but you're going to eat more quantity of food, and that's going to equate to more calories.
Yeah.
That's another topic again, but.
So let's say we're talking to you. You're a nutritionist, right? Two things that come to mind to me is like, what's number one, an user-friendly app that can help us with this process?
Well, I think that apps are very hard unless kind of you have some guidance, right? Like counting macros.
That's
It's kind of like a more
complicated.
what do you call, complex way. Like we went on the simple way of kind of hand portions, very simplified.
Yeah.
Like palm size protein, cup size carbohydrates,
What are we talking about when we say macro?
macronutrients,
Macronutrients.
protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Those are macronutrients.
Okay.
Okay.
And then micro,
Micronutrients are kind of like
The smaller-
the smaller portions.
Vitamins, minerals.
so macro,
Stuff
big,
like that, yeah.
micros. Okay.
So I believe in kind of starting off very slow because if you do macros, you're going to be very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So the thought process is when we first started was hand portion sizes.
Oh,
And
the palm. I remember.
yes, the palm size.
John used to
Remember
talk about
the palm
that.
size because
Portions.
portions people don't know quite
I remember
portions.
Pearl putting the
Remember?
Pearl was putting the chicken breast on their palms.
Yes.
It's touching my finger. Cut it. I remember that
Yeah.
during the wedding.
I mean, it's very simplified, but it's just getting you to kind of eat those things.
Yeah.
And then another way is
It's not
I-
as intimidating the way that you guys presented it.
it's not assuming. The
When
other
John
way,
gave us, when he gave us the first meal plan, remember
Yeah.
they had the 6 and 8 and 12. The ingredients were not complicated.
it's not complicated. The other way is kind of like plate theory. I like to say half of your plate is veggies, and then a quarter of it is protein, and a quarter of it is carbs.
So veggies, all right, half. I can
Because
easily picture that.
because people don't eat enough veggies, where
Yeah.
you get your micronutrients, right?
Yeah.
So that's another easier way.
Here's
as-
another thing I asked you. I don't know if you remember this back in the day. I asked John. I always wanted the quick cheat, right? I was like, hey, just give me a pill that's going to... And you're like, dude, there's no shortcuts. Real food is always going to be your best option. I was like, I didn't like that answer.
Yeah.
Right? But that was the truth. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, I wanted a shortcut pill. And you said, dude, no matter how healthy the pill is, it's going through a process. Whereas
Yeah.
the chicken, it's. So I was at peace with it, but at first I was mad because I was like, John's going to tell me a secret pill.
Yeah.
Well, now they have that shot. Have you heard
Oh,
that?
Here we go.
There we go.
Sorry,
Here we
sorry.
go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay,
It's a can of worms.
Too
Here we go.
expensive for me though, but I was like,
I got thoughts on that as well too.
What shot
You
is
know.
he talking about?
Ozempic,
Oh, the
Monjaro,
song?
Wegovy.
Oh, Sam. I knew the commercial. I don't know what it does.
There's so many of it. Okay, so I believe they're giving it for diabetics, right?
Yeah.
And here's the problem. they do have diabetics have a need from it, but what's happening is a lot of people are using it for the quick fix now, right?
Yeah. That's what we want. We want
the quick fix. But
give us
here's
the pill, Mel.
here's what's going to happen. So for those people that need it, there's going to be a shortage because people are willing to pay out of pocket for it. I know, John, you know someone, and it's like $1,000
$1,000 a
out of
month.
pocket.
For how
Well,
much?
I thought it was more than that, but
Probably more than
Probably
that
more
now,
now.
because
For
there's
one
going to be a
shot?
shortage.
Hollywood made it up. I thought it was almost 10.
And
But
what's
I
the
could be wrong.
benefit for the regular non-diabetic person?
You're going to lose
Like
weight.
this.
You're going to lose weight real quick. So it's interesting because, like, you know how you see some Hollywood stars and that have been struggling with weight,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like,
Jonah Hill?
okay, different people. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
different, like, I'll say allegedly taking it, right? We'll say that, right? And then all of a sudden you see, like, they're super thin. They have this gaunt look on their face. They have this, like, super flat stomach because it decreases your visceral fat around your stomach area. And then they've got this super flat stomach. And then they say, you know, I've just been eating healthy. And I'm like, really? But
No.
you've been struggling for so many years. In like 3 to 6 months, you've lost all this weight. I'm like, no, it's fishy. You
But
know?
what's the side effects? Have they came out
Well,
with
they're
any of that?
saying nausea, vomiting, decrease like digestion because it slows things down. Because I remember they were saying that, like, some Hollywood stars and some comedians say they stopped taking because of the side effects. But some people don't have
Some
side
people don't
effects,
care.
and some people exactly don't care, or some people just get used to it. But I want to eat. You know what I mean? Like, I want to eat, but to each their own. Again, it's like, what can I do? But for the diabetics that do really need it, you know,
What does it do for a diabetic person? Does it regulate your sugar or?
it regulates. So they regulate. I don't know the exact mechanism, but it regulates your sugar. Gosh, I'm so bad. I should look it up. I need to look it up. But the exact thing what it does. But basically, it decreases your body. Oh gosh, I need to look it up. I don't want to like say anything.
Yeah.
You know, but let's just say they're healthier, right? They
Yeah.
need less insulin, right? Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's transition now into. We saw the medical side of it.
Mm-hmm.
You were in the fitness industry when COVID hit. How did you pivot that into something that would actually still work for you and what you were trying to do for people?
So at the time, March, the first things that were going around were, you know, you're gonna have to close your gym.
Who came to you or how did it?
I think it was like in the news or something.
Yeah.
Like, business are gonna have to shut down for this. I'm just like, in my mind, I'm sitting there in my office. I'm like, this is a bunch of BS. I'm not closing my gym. Right. At that time, I caved to the hysteria and the fear, and we shut the doors. And
How did your
At
clients
that-
respond?
we all were of that mind of, because this was what was being told to us,
Yeah.
you know, 2 weeks flatten the curve, right?
Yeah.
It's just 2 weeks.
I know. We thought we were gone for 2 weeks
Yeah.
from school.
So I was like, okay, fine. And in that moment, we were already doing online workouts.
Oh, okay.
So when I knew that was going to be a possibility that we would have to shut the doors, I was like, okay, fine. We're just going to pivot to what we've been doing online. This is when we're going to have the workouts, and you can log in, join us, and boom. And so, you know, we did it from our living room. Workouts, 8:30 in the morning. Join us. Start with a cup of coffee, warm up, off we go.
So I know Jim is probably, because he's, a tech nerd. What was the setup? Did you have 2 cameras and a mic?
I loved it. I mean,
Zoom.
it's not the same, but yeah, I
I
loved
thought
it.
you were Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah.
That's it. Zoom.
So camera, monitor, They're looking in at John. They're logging on to Zoom,
That's it. Zoom.
and John's in the background doing the.
And she would join me too, and you know.
Oh yeah, you guys live together, of course.
Yeah, and
with the dog running in the
we
background.
didn't have
and-
him at the time.
Oh.
So we still have to guess how old he is, right?
Yes. How old is Bob, you guys? I thought Bob was anywhere between 6 months to a year. That's what I thought he was.
How old are you, Bob?
Leave in the comments.
Shall we say how old he is?
Yes.
He is
Wait.
9.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's 9.
he's 9.
9 years.
9 years old.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's a fake puppy.
It's so crazy how they
adorable.
know when you're talking about them.
Yeah.
Right? He's looking.
With
Yeah,
that
you're
with
talking
that
about
tongue.
you're talking
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah.
Talking to me about me again.
Talking about me. Of
Make
course
sure you
we're
get my
always-
age right.
Yeah.
Cute, Bob. And what's the breed for Bob?
Chihuahua, and we think the other part of him is like Pomeranian.
Chihuahua Pomeranian.
So-
Pomchi.
Or a chipam.
Well, you had a different. You told me it was like something puppy, or I forgot what you called.
Fake puppy?
Yeah, something like that. Like something that just stays forever puppy looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a puppy looking face.
Yeah.
A lot of the people, they have the same comment as you do. They're like, oh, how old is he? Oh, he's just 2? Or like, we're like,
9.
he's 9. 9
And
months?
How'd you come up with the name?
Oh, here we go. So this is a story about Bob. Now, we call Bob a family heirloom. So this is my brother and sister-in-law's dog.
Oh,
Yes. So they had their second baby 3 years ago, and Bob went to my mom. So 2 years ago, my mom went on a vacation. Mom said, "Can you watch Bob?" And I'm a crazy cat lady. So Bob to me was just like, oh, that's just Bob, you
Yeah.
know? So Bob came to us. Mom was gone for 2 weeks. And after a week, we're like, oh my
We got
gosh,
attached to him.
he's such a good dog.
yeah. No, he's been sitting there
He's
quietly.
such a good dog. So when mom came home, mom said, oh, keep Bob. And we're like, okay. So Bob has been ours.
Yeah.
So he's been a family heirloom.
so mom named him.
No, oh, here
Her
we
brother.
go. So my brother.
Okay, that's a unique tongue. I just gotta
Okay.
say.
So
It's-
again,
that's
we'll
very long,
we'll go forward before he became my brother and sister-in-law's dog.
Yeah.
So their neighbor had like a litter of chihuahuas.
Yeah.
And this one, for some odd reason, used to wander into my sister-in-law's
Oh,
yard.
so that's right. The neighbors.
But his name was not Bob. His name was Tito.
Tito.
His name was Tito.
This is a second Tito reference
Yes.
today.
So, but my brother, he named him Bob because he used to follow him around. Like, Last Samurai?
Last Samurai.
Bob.
Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The silent guy that followed him around.
That's him.
Bob.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's Bob.
That's a great backstory.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bob. We're so glad to have you on the show. You're going to be the thumbnail, by the way, and we're going to get millions of views just off your sheer cuteness.
Yes.
It's like
Clickbait.
yeah. I didn't understand the whole clickbait thing when I first got into social media,
Yeah.
and someone would share a link with me and say, "Hey, check out this funny prank video," and it would be the link would show a picture of a girl in a bikini.
Uh-huh.
There
I was
you
like, how is this a prank video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I click on it. It was a prank video. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
the thumbnail had nothing to do.
Yeah.
That's the hook. With
Clickbait. Suck
Yeah.
you in. Yep.
Right.
wow. Okay, so getting back to John and Mel pivoting from this in-person fitness to now going to Zoom,
Yeah.
and then eventually evolving into where you are today.
Yeah.
So let's explain to the audience where you guys are currently at in your career journeys.
Okay. So what I do now, if you would have told me when you and I were working together,
Yeah.
this is what I'd be doing now, I'd be like, you crazy.
No way.
No. So, yeah, what I do now is I do leadership and fitness coaching for companies.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So you're like a consultant to different
Companies.
like larger companies
Yeah.
that hire.
yeah, and the initial conversation to even start talking about fitness with this company, that's originally how it started. Was, hey, would you help me put together a fitness program for my company? Because when one employee calls out sick, it costs me $3,500 a week.
Oh,
So if
Yeah.
my employees are in better health, I'll save money. We'll be more productive.
bottom line.
Yeah. And so that's what the whole conversation was about. And then as we started to put this together, it evolved into, hey, I know we talked about fitness, but there's also some leadership that's needed for these people. Will you lead them in leadership coaching? And when the CEO brought that to me, I was filled with doubt. Because I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person to do this. You want leadership and you're coming to me?
Well, yeah.
there
You've been
was-
leading people for years.
See, I didn't see it that way, right? Because I mean,
Well, we all did.
yeah. And so there was some doubt there, and then the CEO is he's I call him my brother. He's part of this group that I'm a part of, and so he had a heart-to-heart talk with me.
Is that part of like the Warrior Week?
Yeah. He's a brother in my circle in Warrior Week. And he just said, look, you've been going through leadership training yourself for 2 years with me in this, on top of what you've already done in fitness. You're qualified. You're more than qualified to lead my company.
Wow.
I said, okay.
He saw something in you that you hadn't identified yet for yours. That's so empowering. I always tell this side note story because the group, you guys, 90s. Remember Belle Biv DeVoe?
Yeah.
So Belle Biv DeVoe ends up having the bigger hit record when all the members of that group separated.
Yeah.
But they were the band that was never to be because the two lead singers, Ralph Tresvant and Johnny Gill, were going to do solo albums. So these three guys left over were like, well, what do we do? We're the background singers.
Yeah.
And a record executive, producer, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, saw them at the after party, it's the final concert, say, hey, you three are a group. And they're like, no, we're not. Yeah, you are. Right. And that's kind of what your friend identified.
Yeah.
That's so empowering to do that.
Yeah. Empowering is that's one piece of it.
What? There's more to this. I feel there's more to this.
It demanded of me faith.
Faith in the process.
Faith in God.
Faith in God. Now, where was your level of faith? Because I know when I knew you,
Yeah.
we didn't reference God a whole lot. I'm not saying you were a heathen or anything, but we never had God conversations.
We didn't. And there's a reason why. So when you and I were working together, God was not part of my life. In my 20s, I turned my back on God. I walked away from what I was raised in.
Was that like the traditional Catholic?
Yeah.
Filipinos and Mexicans, man, we're right there.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I walked
It's
away
the
from all
same
of it.
path.
Yeah. Turned my back. And when you and I crossed paths, God wasn't part of the equation. Like I'm sure happens for many people, you have to be brought to your knees.
Is that kind of like the whole, I got to break you down before I build you up?
Yeah.
And so when did you feel like I'm on my knees? At what point did that happen? Because I just can't imagine that. I mean, all the John we know, well, Mel knows the whole other side.
There was a moment in my office. And I would just shut the door
Yeah.
and just hide. Because I didn't want to feel what I was going through. I just wanted to not deal with it.
And when you talk about, was just like a level of pain
And what it was like a pile of everything at once. that standalone that we talked about,
Yeah.
half my clients walked out the door.
Was the COVID or pre-COVID?
This is pre-COVID.
Oh man.
And then my team went.
Oh man, I didn't know this.
You can imagine the stress and the financial repercussion. On top of that, she and I were staring at divorce. So, this place that I loved didn't feel safe. Home didn't feel safe. Nothing felt safe. So I just wanted to go into my office and hide and not deal with it. And I remember shutting the doors one day and just feeling hopeless, out of answers, and in a really low, dark place. And that was some of the deepest despair that I'd felt in a long time.
Yeah.
But that was my on the knees moment.
And so now that you're on your knees, what is the first sign that things might get better?
How do I put this? A series of events that led to me crawling on my belly on a beach and feeling like my knees and my elbows were being rubbed raw.
What? Wow. That wasn't the answer I was.
That was one of the moments for me that I was like, oh, okay. I'm not alone.
Man.
There's light at the end of this tunnel. And I see you now.
Yeah.
It was at Warrior Week.
Oh, that's right.
And
Warrior
for people that don't know what Warrior Week is, it's it's business training for men to become better fathers, husbands, and businessmen, and it's anchored in God. And that moment that I described on the beach, when they finally had us stop. I'm laying there. I'm just thinking. I'm on my belly. The waves are crashing over me. And I'm just like, thank God. Because this pain sucks. And then I see the boot of my coach step in front of my face. And he puts the picture on the sand in front of me of Melissa and I. And I just lost it. Because in that moment, I connected to the pain that I was putting her through when I had the gym. What was that pain? So, the life of an entrepreneur, financially,
Yeah.
can be like this,
Yeah.
right? There was a lot of that. And I had zero compassion for what that was doing to her. I distinctly remember saying, this is how it's going to be. Get used to it.
Wow.
What I also didn't realize is that was not giving her certainty and security.
Yeah. the one thing that we crave as a partner companion is to know that we've got a rock, a solid.
So it's crazy.
He
Like,
says it all the time.
yeah.
Jim, I was like, Jim, so we have whatever's going on. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna talk to Les about it.
Yeah.
And he always said Leslie's his best friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, Mel, you're here. It all worked out.
We knew from the very beginning. So let me
Her
go to the
mic.
backstory of our relationship. Sorry, let me go to the backstory of our relationship. So again, I don't like to hide any stories because I want to be transparent and because
It's so hard, though.
it's so hard. But I always want to be an open book because someone may be going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And so when I met John, he had a business partner.
I heard you didn't like him at all.
Yes. So this might be where we cuss a little bit here.
Yeah.
you
That's fine.
know.
Yeah.
So at that time, his business partner was my personal trainer. I was married before.
Okay.
Okay. And so at that time, he worked at that gym too. And so my personal trainer at that time, and I used to ask him all the time, I'm like, dude, what's up with John? Like, he comes through the gym like an a-hole, like with a chip on his shoulder. I'm like, I don't like that guy.
Is it like mega alpha male energy
like-
or what was it?
Asshole.
Mega asshole energy,
Do you remember that time, John?
Oh,
being
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was like the last thought in my mind. I was like, I'm just going to work out, do my thing, whatever. So as I was going through my separation, divorce, my personal trainer was like, hey, come to my birthday party. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, well, who's going to be there? And he's like, John's going to be there. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, why does he have to be there? And so, he's like, okay. So we went and, we exchanged numbers and I actually had a real good conversation with him. I got to know him. And at this
Did
time.
you initiate that conversation or was it John?
Oh, gosh. I don't remember.
I think I asked you if you wanted to go to the party with me.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. I was like, we'll see how this goes, you
Yeah.
know. And so it was okay.
You saw a different side to
saw a
him.
different side, and we exchanged numbers, and finally, we had a great conversation because as teenagers, when you're like, no, you get off the phone.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
You
yeah.
get off the phone.
Yeah.
It was a 6-hour conversation.
Wow, you guys covered everything.
Yeah.
We're like this.
We talked about every single thing.
You remember those
Now,
days, Jim?
I remember as I was going through my divorce separation, I was like, okay, God, the next man I meet, I kind of had this kind of I don't want to say like a checklist, but I had some things that I wanted
Yeah.
different than my ex-husband. I'm like, okay, he's going to teach me things that I want to learn. I'm going to learn from him. We're going to do spontaneous things. We're just going to have a good time. It wasn't even like, I want him to be 6 feet tall. I want him to have blue eyes, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't even physical things. I asked for the things that would make me emotionally
Fulfilled.
yeah. And loved and, have, just wanting to enjoy life. And that's how I met John that way. And I'm like, oh, he's not an asshole. He's really a good guy.
Yeah.
And he knew how to cook. All right. So this is the best story that I always have, with John. So, okay. The first time, I spent the night, the next morning, he cooked me breakfast. Well, actually,
Yes.
okay. the night before, I came home from work and I was like, oh man, my feet hurt. And it wasn't asking for anything,
Yeah.
but he rubbed my feet.
There you go, John.
I was like,
They call it, the young kids call that Riz, right?
I was like, what? I was like, oh my. And I kid you not, I
Foot
went,
massage.
I fell asleep like fell asleep like a rock. And it was like the best sleep I ever had. Next morning, he had this like thing he used to cook all the time. And at first I was like, man, this is like super healthy. It was like egg whites, like an egg white frittata with veggies and cantaloupe.
Ooh,
But
sounds
listen to
good.
his coffee.
Huh?
Brown sugar with cream, like loads and loads of brown sugar.
Wait, the cream?
Condensed milk?
No, it was dulce de leche ice cream.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I guess there's like
There's the balance there.
There's a
With
balance.
with a splash of
yeah.
coffee.
with
It's
a
like
splash
we'll
of
have
coffee.
egg whites and dessert.
And
was so
so
good.
that was like his breakfast every morning. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And so, the fitness and nutrition and the love of life. And, it's like when you meet someone and you're like, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I always say, I know things have to happen in life to get to where you are, but I'm like, John should have been my first husband, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't had my relationship with John if I didn't go through my last relationship.
You got to date Tito to marry Michael. Right?
So
Well, you referenced Michael Jackson and Tito all night.
It's the theme.
it's the
I
thing.
should have wore the jacket.
Yeah.
He does have a jacket.
You
he
do
does
not.
have a jacket.
I got the Thriller and the Beat
Why
It.
am I not surprised?
He showed it to me. We were at his mom's house, and
Today, you're at his mom's house today, right?
Well, no,
Happy birthday, Mrs. Bocobo.
No, this was way back when I first went to his house. He was like showing me his clothes, and I'm like, why do you have this? But to all due respect to his mom, he indulged in his like quirkiness.
And
you know?
she embraced it, let him be himself.
She
right?
embraced
He
it.
was- Didn't he have a skater face?
Yes.
He was a
He had
skater.
long hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had long
Yes.
hair.
Yes.
He collects. Where's your board
Oh,
collection?
I got a whole classroom full of
He's got-
skateboards.
I rode nothing but Alva skateboards.
Oh, this one right there in the window. There's an
Oh,
Alva
there
right
you
there.
go.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and his mom is a teacher. And I was like, I
Yeah.
think as a teacher, I guess you understand children's individuality.
Yeah.
And coming from, I'm Filipina and Filipino background, it's like, you do as you say, what are they going to think?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I was in like literally in a box like that. Like I had to do a lot of things. And you know how I was saying like things in life, you got to go through things to find your way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have found me if I didn't go through my divorce.
Yeah.
There was a point in life where I said, you know what? I'm going to do things the way I want to do it. And I had to tell my mom, I'm a good kid. I'm a great daughter. I said, please support me in what I'm going through. And I said, I need to do this. My mom didn't talk to me for about almost a year
Wow.
after my divorce. So it was really tough.
Yeah.
But during that period, I really found who I was, what I liked, not because mom told me to like it, not because that's what you're supposed to do. It's who am I? And I went through a lot of questions in my head. It was really, really hard, my mom and I relationship, because I always say my mom and I are like two queens in a household. She's got her way, I got my way. And coming from my background, I know we kind of like segue into so many things now, but maybe people can relate,
It's all good. Yeah.
My dad was a nurse. He worked at night as well
Oh,
too
okay.
at my hospital. And my mom worked during the day. My grandparents were home.
Was your mom a nurse as well?
No, my mom used to work for Insurance Blue Cross. But
Okay.
I don't think they're not Blue Cross anymore.
Blue Shield.
Blue Shield or
Yeah.
Anthem or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I was second mommy in charge. I have two younger brothers. I think we're 8 and 5 years apart. Yeah, 8 and 5 years apart. So I did the homework, the meals, the driving them to school when I could drive. I had a lot of the bathing. I had lots of responsibilities as a child. So in my mind, I felt I didn't have my own childhood.
Yeah.
And so as when I was with my ex-husband, I felt like I was in a box again because he wanted me to be a certain way as well too.
Yeah.
And I used to tell him, I'm like, you literally love me to death. I feel suffocated, because he wanted me to be a certain way. And as soon as I divorced him, I just went like, I'm doing me. And I did me. And, I'm happy with all the decisions I've made. There are no regrets, So you got to go through the process to get to the result that you want. And like in fitness,
Yeah.
there is no quick fix.
No shortcuts.
I always say to get through a book, you got to go through the chapters to get to the end because it doesn't make sense if you don't go through all of it.
Yeah.
So
The Cliff Notes.
the cliff notes, right? And so again, I'm that open book. You ask me any question, I'll tell you
Yeah.
because that's who I am and I'm proud of who I am and what I went through.
Well, it's refreshing too. Transparency is not common these days. And so when John, we've had a couple conversations recently and he's just dropped bombs on me. I'm like, wow, I would never say that out loud because I don't have the courage to just, be that vulnerable. So it's kind of inspiring to see that. And you match the energy. You have that same energy. It's like, okay, well, it's like this and I did this and this.
So as I was going through my divorce separation, I was like, I put my cards out on the table to John. I was like, look, I'm going through something. I'm going to be a bitch. I'm going to have good days. I'm going to have bad days. It's up to you if you want to, go through this relationship. And he was like, okay. And I think if we didn't go through that,
Yeah.
I don't think we would have stuck it out because I kind of asked him like a lot of questions also. Like, you got to lay your cards out on the table because I'm laying my cards on the table. Because at that time, I think I was in my late 30s, I believe.
So was I.
Just threw it out on the table.
Just throw it out on the table because we're 4 years apart. So
Yeah.
there was like, I'm not wasting any time because if we just can't try to make it work, then what's the use? I'm not
Yeah.
going to be sugarcoating like, oh no, please stay with me. No, I don't have time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for
I don't
that.
have time for that. I want to be with someone that really wants to be with me with all my flaws.
Yeah.
Flaws,
Except all of
uniqueness.
male.
Yeah, except all of me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, some people say, I've heard someone said to me, a friend of mine say, a person from work said, oh, they present themselves in this way, but they had problems. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the realness. We had problems. And just because, yes, we look like this in front of you, I'm telling you, we had problems. I don't think there's in any relationship that's perfect.
Yeah.
There's no relationship that's perfect. But you have to want to be with that person to make it work. And I say, why be with that person if you're going to say, oh, I can't wait for my husband to be away this weekend?
Yeah. You're looking
And I
forward.
never understood that saying,
That
because
mindset.
that mindset. Because why? I mean, I know some people stay for convenience purposes. I'm just speculating.
Stay for
I
the
don't know.
kids.
Yeah,
Stay for the
Yeah.
just it's comfortable.
it's comfortable. Exactly, it's comfortable. I mean,
Yeah, I don't-
you've heard people say like, yes, we're divorced, but we live in the same house.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, So
No,
Yes.
I'm glad to see you guys thriving. I want to end with this because this is something that John and I spoke about recently, and I'm sure he shared with you. I know Jim knows about 2.5 weeks ago. One of our dear friends that we grew up with took his life, and it took us by, it shocked us. And I told John on a phone call recently, I said, John, this is like the fourth person in a 10-year span that I knew on an, intimate, close level that has taken their life. And it's kind of like throwing me for a loop. Like, I don't know who's next. I don't know what's happening. And John had some pretty insightful statements about the current state of male mental health. And I just wanted to have you share with our audience why you think this is such a thing right now and what we can do about it.
It's changing, but like the way you and I grew up, you're conditioned from youth. Sports is one of the ways that it happens
Yeah.
to not feel what you feel, right?
Shake it off.
Shake it off, suck it up, stop being a pussy, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And so you're conditioned from a young age to stuff that stuff, to stuff it. Well, what happens? You turn into an adult who still stuffs it. You're a human. You have feelings. Your feelings are never wrong. That's why you're feeling them, right?
Yeah.
As a person who is conditioned to not feel those things, what are you? What do you turn into? What do you do with those things that are in you that you don't deal with, that you don't know how to deal with? What do you do when it becomes overwhelming?
You drink,
You drink, you sedate, you hide.
self-medicate.
Yeah. Drugs, alcohol, porn, violence, whatever. I have a friend that like he took it to the craziest level and ended up ripping around his house on his Harley.
What?
Yeah.
Man.
And so we all have our ways of hiding from those things, but they still remain.
Yeah.
And I think this is the problem, right? Is for a lot of men, they don't have a space that is not going to judge them, a place that's not going to judge them, guys that aren't going to judge them, to talk about what you feel inside,
Yeah.
right? And when that gets bottled up and you feel, it can get to the point where you feel like you are absolutely alone, which is a lie. But you're going to buy into that story as well. And when you feel that way and you feel alone and there's nobody understands, it gets real easy to get enticed by, you know what, I don't want to feel this anymore. And to buy into that's a solution. And so, I'm fortunate because I have the guys that I got
Yeah.
to talk about that stuff. These guys know, we all know like the darkest stuff about each other. And how many guys have that kind of a gift?
Within your group,
Yeah.
has there ever been conversations amongst you guys where one member or another was like, hey guys, I actually contemplated at one point just ending it all?
Yeah. A couple weeks ago.
Wow.
In March.
And the rest of the group just walks you through that and helps you navigate that.
It's hey brother, what's going on? Right?
Yeah.
Talk to me. Just the fact that is available and you don't have to hide,
Mm-hmm.
that you can share that, it goes a long way. And a lot of guys, myself included, when you first step into that, you're like, that's being weak,
Yeah.
right? But really, what is that? That's your reaction to that. That's you ridiculing it, when in fact, deep down, you need it.
It's just you're afraid, you're uncomfortable.
And
Yeah.
credit to women, because they're sort of more wired to share with their girls what they're feeling.
And they encourage us.
Yes. Guys, just, it's like I said, it's changing, but, guys don't. But when you share your pain, it's divided.
You said it. I was trying to remember
And
who
at the
told me
same
that.
time, when you share your joy, it becomes multiplied.
Yeah. I was trying to remember who told me that.
Yeah.
It was you.
Yeah. And so the more you do that, the less power it starts to have over you. And in some crazy way, organically, it's not forced. Like God comes and shows Himself to you and says, "Hey, you're not alone. You've never been alone."
You thought you were this whole time.
Yeah.
So pain shared is divided.
And joy
Joy
shared is
is
joy multiplied.
multiplied.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, huh? He told me that the other day, and I was like, I think it's in my phone. I have notes on that one. So, Jim, do you feel like you have a safe space? Like,
I think all of us bring this down. I think just knowing that our friendship, you got to have positiveness around you to keep you feeling positive enough.
Yeah.
That kind of relates. But
Yeah.
I think all of us have grown up with each other, knowing that we could call each other on a dime and help each other out and stuff. I think that helps out because as an educator,
Yeah.
it really gets under the skin when you see the kids that don't have that connection yet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, all of us grew up in high school and we all grew up together. So
Yeah.
when you see those kids that are sitting alone at such a young age, as a senior even, eating by themselves, and you're thinking, God, where are they going to go? What group? What positive group do they have around them that's going to build up their confidence level? And what? And they're not dating, they're not doing anything positive. You don't know what their lifestyle is at home.
Yeah.
And so it makes you wonder as an educator, thinking, God, you just pray for them and hope that there's something that's going to make them succeed in life and not go a different route that you don't want to think about.
Yeah.
So I think we are, Robert, if that answers your question. I think I think all of us in our group, our circle,
Officer, all those guys, yeah.
I think our circle is pretty positive. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that I feel safe, telling these guys certain things, that pain I'm going through. But John was talking about when you talked about the Warriors, it was like a next level transparency.
Well, I mean, it's a commitment to telling the truth. And that's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's hard. Because you can also hide behind positivity. You can still put on that face,
Yeah.
right? The bigger piece to that is if you know that you're committed to the truth, and then you also know that you answer to God,
Yeah.
it gets a lot harder. But
So-
it's also freeing,
Yeah.
because if you don't have the weight of those things on you, then what are you free to do?
Yeah.
You're free to be who God made you to be, and you're free to go serve the way that He wants you to serve people.
So part of the reason that, we created this channel and have these conversations
Yeah.
is our hope is that someone is out there going through it right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, they run into something on YouTube and they hear a conversation and they've got, is that John and Mel on the couch, right? So as a parting message to
Yeah.
people who may be currently going through it, as a person who's come out the other side, what would you share with them right now in the middle of their storm?
That you're not alone. That's the biggest lie that we buy into, is that you're alone. I certainly felt that way sitting in my office with the doors closed.
Yeah.
But you're not alone. Yeah, that's really it. Is God is there for you. He's always there for you. It's us that turn our back on Him. It's us that buy into that story that I'm alone, right? But He's always there.
Amen. That's wonderful. Mel, any parting words for our audience?
I guess it's the same thing as if you're struggling out there, please reach out to someone, because you do have people that are on your side. People can't read what's going on in your head unless you say something. And, if it has to be you just telling someone, hey, I just need you to sit here with me and listen to what I'm going through and just offer that shoulder, that hand to hold. I think that does a lot for an individual, letting them know that someone does care,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of times we just hold it in,
Yeah.
right? Because, oh, Rob should know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't know.
Mind reader.
We're not mind readers. And it's the same thing of a relationship.
Yeah.
Well, John should know what I'm thinking.
You get in trouble, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't know.
You didn't
Yeah.
know that I wanted to do that, you know. So, I mean, yes, just reach out to someone. I think that's the main thing. You're
Yeah.
not alone.
Thank you. We are not alone. And you guys remember that? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you got a bunch. I mean, we covered way more than we thought we would. We went from nutrition to COVID to fitness to mental health. And it was just as amazing as I thought it was. It's a dream come true to be back in the same room with you guys. This is awesome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And you guys out there, don't forget, Chances Are Productions makes everything work here. It's a beautiful studio. And don't forget to like and subscribe on RobLive. And check us out next time. And we try to impart wisdom, inspiration, and hope. You are not alone. And we sign off like we always do with some love, peace, and chicken grease. We out.